And you, David, you did some amazing commentary throughout the candidates tournament. And how was it for you?
Well, Askill, as someone who nearly qualified for the candidates twice, I'm going to pretend. No, it was fun to watch. Obviously, I think like Magnus, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect Gukesh to win. I didn't think he was ready. I thought he was still very raw. I still thought there would be too many weaknesses in his game over such a long stretch. But I mean, credit to him. He played like a very mature player. He rode the emotions, rode the ups and downs. I thought he would crack just before the halfway point when he lost to Faruja from a dominant position. And yeah, I mean, it was just dramatic. I mean, Gukesh aside, it was a lot of fun to commentate on. The games were up and down. I mean, it's perfect from a commentating point of view that the games were not necessarily the highest level every time. It was just the players pushing and pushing and going for each other. And yeah, it was a tight race. It was a lot of fun to watch as a spectator fan of chess. He became a grandmaster at 12 years old, so a bona fide prodigy. Yeah, he's fantastic at calculation. He's clearly super serious about the game. You nearly never see him smile because he's always just in the zone. Yeah, very good tactically. I think one thing that struck me a few years ago was how he said he never used engines at all. Literally didn't even switch on, didn't know how to use engines until he was 14, 15. So he was already a very strong grandmaster at the time. And yeah, clearly his approach, he does everything right. But yeah, it's hard to sum up because, like you say, he's still a bit of an unknown quantity, and we haven't seen him win too many of these big events or even been kind of a fixture at these big events. It's just the last 6 months he's really come to life, and yeah, it's exciting to know where he goes next. I don't know how he's going to evolve as a chess player, and if he becomes world champion, that'll be incredible.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I mean, Caruana and Nakamura were the big favorites. How big of a shock is it that Gukesh won in the end?
Yeah, firstly, I'll say that we were nearly right. They were up there.
Yeah,
true. It could have been different.
Exactly. In the second half, I mean, Caruana went on a surge. He was kind of woken up by that loss against Nakamura. Naka as well bounced back from these losses against Vidit to kind of be there and thereabouts. But yeah, I thought kind of, especially a 14-round event where stamina, experience, kind of knowing when to change gears, when to take risk, I thought that would favor the older guys. And I mean, 3 of the top 4 ultimately were more experienced players. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see an exception. I mean, Gukesh, I mean, like Magnus, I thought his game was maybe, it'll be neutralized by the older players who could kind of shut him down, could calculate just as well, but also had different kind of angles to their game. But no, somehow maybe it's just that ambition, kind of always pushing, and the fact that he was able to beat the tailenders in the competition. That was what kind of pushed him just above the experienced players.
That was maybe the key in the end to actually gain those points.
Yeah, I mean, what cost Nakamura, for example, was losing twice against Vidit. One of the kind of players towards the bottom, a couple of players failed to punish Faruja, Abbasov, and ultimately there were a lot of draws actually against kind of the top players, the top finishing players against each other, and it came down to who beat the tailenders, and that's the case, I guess, in any round robin.
Vishy Anand is still hanging around. He's been a great mentor for these guys. Who do you think will help him towards the World Championship match?
Help Gukesh? I don't know. If I were him, I'd stick to whatever he's doing. Like I know Gajewski is one of his main coaches. I don't know. Kind of wider than that, but Magnus, maybe you have more insight.
Yeah.
So what is your take on the match, and who do you think will win?
At this moment, it's hard. I mean, I think most of the world sees Gukesh as a favorite, just purely based on recent form. Personally, as a commentator, I want to see Ding kind of be back close to his best at least, or at least in better shape, and make it a real fight. And then the old man in me also says, come on, Ding, just do it for this, do it for the older gen, keep the youngsters at bay just one last time. So I don't know, mixed feelings, but ultimately I think it's going to be a fun match. Yeah, I can't see it being dull with too many boring draws. It feels like, especially Gukesh, he's going to press every game. And yeah, that could be good. Could be good for Ding even potentially if Gukesh goes too hard. First time, of course, for him as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting, as you mentioned. I mean, Ding is the older player. He's representing your and Magnus's generation, and Caruana, Nakamura, Nepo, etc. So that's an interesting aspect as well. Having watched Gukesh playing these 14 rounds of the candidates, what impresses you most about his style of chess, and what takeaways can we learn from his games?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, obviously, just the killer instinct. Actually, he won more games than I thought he would, even though he had several promising positions. Usually at this level, we saw it from others. They were missing opportunities. They were allowing kind of nerves to settle in, and then they'd kind of they'd bail in a way, like they'd take the safe way out. But he would keep pushing and pushing, and that served him very well in the end. Impressed me that he was able to kind of play all sorts of positions. There were some crazy fights like we were talking about with Pragnananda. There were some quieter games as well. The way he beat Abbasov in quite a positional manner was quite impressive. The big takeaway is that he's here to stay. He's not just a prodigy who made it to the candidates once. I mean, he's shown that he's maybe one of the standouts from the generation, and it's exciting to see.
Next question, David, for you from Greg Smith. Sounds very British.
Hey, Greg.
Who will Ding use as seconds for the World Championship match? All Chinese players or Western players too? What do you think?
It's hard to know. I wonder whether Richard Rapport will still be there as, a close friend, spiritual guide, and at second.
There seemed to be a bromance there brewing during the previous World Championship.
I think that was one of the biggest surprises. Not many people saw that pairing coming, but I don't know too much, to be honest. I mean, it's always been a bit of a mystery. Ding, I know for many years he was working not quite alone, but with some seconds back in China that he would communicate with remotely. And Magnus probably knows more from experience playing against him, but yeah, it's an unknown quantity.